to start with a background. So we'll look at the history of B2B sales automation first, so that we can put the new development and these AI agents into a real context. So the first 5 minutes, I'm gonna walk you through the next 35 years, how sales in B2B sales sort of automation has evolved. Let's start with 1991 and that period until 1995. I think that was the time when the foundations of digital sales were built. We saw the sort of the rise of first enterprise CRMs, and also email as a communications channel was introduced, and it got and gained some popularity back then. And then towards the end of the decade and century, Salesforce.com, that was maybe the first bigger company introducing cloud CRM, and also companies had built websites in the 90s, and they started towards the end of the decade to use them as sort of lead gen tools. We saw the first forms being introduced, and also first like very automated email campaigns and platforms supporting that were introduced back then. Then early 2000, I feel that sort of CRMs gained popularity, and everything started to become more digital. We saw pipelines, forecasts being available in the cloud, and more sales analytics was introduced, and also actually the first lead scoring models were introduced already back then, so almost 25 years ago. HubSpot, if I remember correctly, was founded 2006, and I think they played a very important role promoting inbound sales and content marketing. And I also started doing B2B sales myself in that period, and remember being very impressed when I realized that it's possible to track who opens up an email that I send, and this type of insights. Then 15 years ago, predictive lead scoring was already a hot topic. Social selling 10 years ago was also a topic people wanted to understand, and I think it goes sort of and went hand in hand with the release of LinkedIn Sales Navigator. And also in that period, many of these inside sales tools such as Outreach or Salesloft and other tools that helped you to organize and orchestrate and manage sales cadences and sales sequences were introduced. Then between 2016 and 2020, sales engagement platforms definitely got momentum. Many people, they started doing account-based marketing, account-based sales, and sort of account-based everything. So they wanted to personalize at scale, and it was more data-driven than it was before that. Also in that period, already the first sort of AI features were introduced, and these bigger companies like Salesforce, they introduced their AI layers, such as Einstein. And then right now we're living that period between 21 and 25. I think definitely the key thing here is Gen AI. So OpenAI and later on Gemini, DeepSeek, and these tools, they have been helping salespeople very effectively to create emails, to create content, summarize calls, prep sales decks, prep them to sales meetings. So all types of co-pilots have been sort of the key thing in this period. We've also seen lots of new enrichment tools. Intent data has been something people have been discussing a lot, especially in the US, and enrichment. We have seen waterfall type of enrichment solutions where you combine multiple vendors into one, and then you sort of orchestrate enrichment, data enrichment in a different way, and also API ecosystems being quite popular. And then we don't, of course, know, but I think this is sort of the context and the background. So we've seen very systematic development over the past 35 years. And now I feel that it's quite obvious that the next 5 years, when we look back later on, will be sort of all about AI agents. And these agents, they will perform very impressive tasks, and they will perform them independently. So we'll see lots of sales agents, and they will handle important parts of the sales process, like prospecting, qualification, discovery calls, and even simple demos. And at the same time, I believe also sort of the buying process and selling process, at least on a lower end, where the sales is more transactional, there will be more and more zero-touch procurement journeys as well. So that's the background. So now what we need to do next. So we need a sort of a scenario. So I hope that all of us will now think that we're B2B salespeople selling energy management software. So that's the product or solution we're selling when we walk through these next exercises and examples. And then we have an ICP, ideal customer profile. So we want to do that, and we want to sell those solutions to energy intensive companies that take environmental issues seriously. And what we will do is that we will then compare how certain common workflows in B2B sales, or phases or steps in B2B sales, how they used to be done when the process was quite manual, how the process is done maybe today when we already have traditional automation in place. And then we'll also try to understand how that process could work when we use AI agents. So that's what we'll do, common scenarios, and we always compare manual process, traditional automation, and AI agents. But before we go into that, I want to highlight some key terms that are important when we talk about AI agents. So even though some of these might feel very technical, I still feel that this is a good slide. Maybe you can take a screenshot, because it explains the basic concepts behind these AI agents and large language models. It also helps you, even if you're not technical and you just want to do sales as effectively as possible. I think it's good to understand the basic concepts, because then it's easier for you to evaluate what's possible and what should be possible and what's maybe out of reach when it comes to these AI agents. But AI agent, the definition here is that it's self-operating AI that is combining tools, reasoning, and memory to complete tasks. And it's important that it can complete tasks. So that's important part of the definition. Example is that in this case, for example, when we try to identify energy intensive companies that take environmental issues seriously, AI agent needs to be able to read a financial report, decide whether it's relevant or not, and create a CRM record on its own. We're using LLMs, large language models, so OpenAI, Gemini, DeepSeek. I think we all have heard about these LLMs, and it's simply an advanced AI that is trained with lots of training data to read, understand, and generate human-like text. So an example is that it can read a financial statement, annual report, and explain what it found regarding energy usage trends, if that's the task we have given for the agent. Then maybe a new term for many of you, RAG, retrieval augmented generation. Important part of these agents, because we work and operate with lots of text. So this is what you need to have in place, and what basically vendors of these AI agents need to have in place. It's important because it filters the noise so that AI is working with real facts that actually fit the context of the AI model. And also it helps you to reduce the amount of hallucinations these models are doing, because with the help of RAG, you can sort of pinpoint that this is the part of huge amount of text where the text is relevant for the question you have at hand. So when asking about electricity use, the model only sees those important sentences and doesn't have to process them all. These models, they need data that is sort of LLM ready or LLM friendly, and simply it means clean, structured, and labeled content, so that it's easy for LLMs to understand. And the use case, of course, there is that it can sort of convert somewhat messy PDFs into machine-readable format and really extract insights out of them. Vector database, just exciting concept. If you think of these AI models, they sort of remember the meaning of words and sentences as a long list of numbers that are called embeddings or vectors, if you will. And this vector database is a way to store those meanings, those embeddings, and then link them to other embeddings that are close by. So with the help of vector database, that's how these models can, for example, find power consumption, even if you're searching for something else like energy use, because the meaning is so similar. Another example could be that if I say that I'm hungry, and then we store the text into a vector database, then it also understands that it's more or less the same thing when I say that I'd like to have a sandwich, because they both indicate that I want to eat something. Then agents, they need to perform tasks, so they need to be able to complete something. So then tool calling or function calling is what makes these LLMs tasks a multi-step process, so that it can decide sort of itself what to do and when to act or respond. So an example here could be that in this case, for example, the agent will call an API, external data enrichment API, to pull important information for the task. And then if you look at product roadmaps of big companies like HubSpot, Intercom, many others, they all are nowadays talking about MCP, Model Context Protocol. So very briefly, why that is just a key term in this space is that it's an open standard, and it's a standard that allows these AI agents to work together with other tools without custom integration to every single one of them. So for example, an AI agent, if it's using the HubSpot MCP, it can independently access HubSpot, and it can, for example, complete a task like show me recent activity for this company and add a new company record based on the analysis. So these are just good terms to have in mind, and feel free to take a screenshot. Then we'll go back to these maybe more common things. So we'll look at these 3 common scenarios in B2B sales. So prospecting ICP companies and putting them into CRM. Then second one is the initial discovery you do as a salesperson before the first sales meeting. And then third one is the moment when you are ready to send out a business proposal or offer for the customer. And for all of them, we will compare how is the manual process, how is traditional automation, and how that task can be done with AI agents. By the way, if you have questions, feel free to use chat. We'll see if we have enough time to cover all the questions at the end. If not, Ahmed and I, we spoke that we'll put together also an email that highlights question and answer for every single one of them. So questions will be and will get answered. But all right, let's start with the first scenario, prospecting ICP companies into CRM, and let's start with the manual process, how that looks. So maybe in the manual process, hopefully not too many of you are still in that phase, but then you would define the ICP maybe in an Excel sheet. And in this example now, we have made the ICP a bit more accurate. So we focus on companies in Finland that are energy intensive and that indicate that they take environmental issues seriously by having certain certificates that are close to the environmental topic, so ISO certificates, for example. But manual process, then you all know, maybe you Google companies, maybe you know some companies already, you Google certain industries where you know that, of course, companies are like in manufacturing, often they are energy intensive. You check these environmental certificates by opening up annual reports that you find online by doing some Googling, and then you read through each one to understand if the company fits the ICP criteria, and then once done, then someone needs to copy paste the information to your CRM. Of course, this is very slow and also quite risky because you most likely end up missing quite a few ICP companies. So then how does it look when it comes to traditional automation? And I feel many companies and many of you most likely are doing it somehow like this way at the moment. So then maybe you have a sales intelligence or company database tool in place. You use filters like that you want to focus on Finnish companies. Then you pick those industries that you know that are energy intensive, energy industry, manufacturing industry, and maybe logistics. Then you use something like revenue as a proxy to define if they use lots of energy. And then the companies that match these filters are being sent to CRM, and maybe there's some sort of automation that it does it once a week, once a day, or once a month. So this is definitely faster than the manual process, which is good, and it's repeatable and consistent, and can be integrated into existing workflows. But then it definitely has some limitations because it still relies on proxies and not real evidence, and it cannot actually identify actual energy use or if they have these certifications, unless those are like database fields that can be linked to CRM. So then how I feel this type of task will be done in the future, it will look something like this, that it starts with natural language. So you actually just write it, or quite soon, I guess, just say it, that you want to find Finnish companies that are energy intensive and have that specific certification in place. And then you have some tools in use, could be Vainu, could be another company database, so that you can go in and check financials, you can go in and check those ESG environmental reports, and then you also want the agent to complete the task, meaning that the ones that meet the criteria, you want to send them and also include the reason why. And then the AI agent does the whole thing. But it has to be able to search those unstructured documents so that it gets and understands where the important part of the text is. It's using semantic search. So that's where vector database becomes important, so that it can find those key phrases that actually are important to reveal if the company is energy intensive. And then it's using that tool calling so that it actually completes the task and pushes those new companies into CRM and labels them with the right type of information. So this is real-time, searchable, dynamic, and obviously these agents work 24/7. Good. Let's continue. The second example was discovery analysis before the first meeting. So now let's start again with manual process. So manual process, I think we all have done it, or at least I believe that way, that we Google the company, we visit company website, we go to LinkedIn, maybe we read a couple of news articles, maybe we know that someone, maybe a colleague knows something about the company, we discuss with them, and then we manually write down a few things into meeting notes. So this is, of course, time consuming, very easy, and high likely that we miss something important, and it's not systematic. So it's not really something you can scale. So then traditional automation in this scenario looks a little bit like the following. So you have data enrichment tool in place connected with your CRM. It automatically pulls in important data points, company size, industry, maybe some financial data points regarding the that can be used as a proxy to estimate energy use. And then with the help of CRM, you get the sort of a summary or meeting card, insight card before the meeting or before the call. And you might even get this automatically into your inbox. Maybe a sales enablement tool is sending you an email just before the meeting. So this is better than the manual process, but it's still limited to structured data and doesn't really take into account tone or latest strategy shifts or pain points that are actually being said. So then we'll go and see how this can be done with AI agent-driven approach. So then again, you start with natural language and you just explain what you're up to. And then the agent is doing the search. Often in this use case, it would have to have access to both internal and external databases. Could be Vainu, could be these ESG reports, LinkedIn, CRM, press releases. There's plenty of places where you have important information when you prep yourself for the meeting, and it has to be able to read again these unstructured documents, and it has to have the technology in place to pull the most important pieces of information, so those relevant quotes and facts, and then putting it together as a summary with concrete action items. And you can see an example there that maybe this company energy usage rose significantly year over year. They have a specific ISO certification. They are doing something important, some new changes lately, like expanding into new countries, and they have a recently hired CTO who seems to be very focused on automation. So then these insights can be delivered automatically into your CRM notes or calendar or whatever outlet you use to consume this type of information. Then the third example was sending out a tailored proposal, manual process. We copy paste from old proposal template, we duplicate the document, we start switching the company names and products, we fill in the customer details, we do an internal search, we try to find a relevant case study to attach that one, and then a little bit of guesswork regarding pricing, and often pricing is based on sparring with others. So lots of drawbacks, outdated information, lots of time spent, and no logic how we actually make the decision to include or exclude certain line items and how we price them. Traditional automation, you use a tool for this, like a proposal tool, and then you have templates, product and pricing information, often autofills based on those fields in the CRM regarding that opportunity and company, and maybe you have some sort of drop-down menu to put together the actual proposal. So it's definitely more effective and efficient, but still fairly generic. It doesn't really personalize and tailor the proposal for the recipient. So then AI agent, again, it starts with natural language, and basically the prompt is of course important, and you're giving some tips and guidelines that use the discovery call, use the meeting notes, use the documents that are relevant for this case, and look at the existing customers we have, especially those ones that are in the similar situation and also have that same certification in place. And then the AI agent is doing the search, analyzing meeting notes, could be analyzing some call recordings, past deals. It's able to retrieve the best case study and putting together that dynamic or that proposal with good examples and solid, valuable references included. So, and then if the agent is also capable of doing the tool or function calling, then it can also actually send out the proposal for the prospect and update your CRM regarding the task that was made. So then those were the 3 examples. Then I also promised that I'll talk about Vainu's AI agent. It's called Vainugent. And of course, the question is, how good is it? And how could you use it? And what are the use cases? So we'll jump into that next. The good news is that every Vainu user already has access to it, so you can just try it out and see how good it is. Of course, you need to use the new platform, Vainu.app, but then if you do so, you can open up any of the company profiles and automatically Vainugent will start doing the analysis for you. So it's fully automated, available for everyone. It's based on the prompt. I have another training that highlights the importance of prompting and also some tips how to create an effective and good and solid prompt. But we also have prompt templates. All Vainu users, we actually created a personalized, tailored prompt for you automatically. So whenever you log in, we use your email domain, we check what the company you work for, we automatically detect the type of services and solutions you sell, and that's the starting prompt you see when you log in. So it's fairly good, I would say, even if you don't edit the prompt. But of course, check the prompt templates, because then you can pick and choose and define the use case you want to use Vainugent for. And then you write down the prompt, and then that's what Vainugent is doing whenever you open up a company profile. And how it's different compared to just using ChatGPT or Gemini or DeepSeek is that Vainugent has access to our proprietary data. So when it comes to Nordic data, when it comes to company key facts, financial data, what are they actually up to, all those basic important things, group structure, contact information, including like how the company has been mentioned in different type of articles, meeting minutes, even if they have revealed something in the financial statement. Vainugent has access to that type of information, and that's why it performs so well in quite a few tasks. The most common use cases at the moment are these. So you want to do company research. It could be any prompt. So maybe you want to understand what's the company growth strategy, or maybe you have that question that we just used as an example, how energy intensive is this company, or if this company has expanded to Sweden, whatever you or want to know, you can use it as a research agent, and it returns the answer and answers automatically based on Vainu data. Also quite useful when you want to craft a unique selling point for every prospect, like how should I approach this company if I'm about to give them a call or email. You can, of course, ask Vainugent to write that actual email or create a script, but you can use it and just as a sparring partner to craft that unique selling point and value prop for each prospect. We've also seen quite a few companies and users doing it that they wanna calculate some sort of a score. Could be a credit score, could be account fit score, could be social responsibility index. It works super well for that type of use cases. So in the prompt, you need to define sort of how you want that score to be calculated. And then Vainugent is smart and is using all the available information to calculate an exact score for you. And also, like the example we had earlier, providing good insights before the sales meeting definitely does a good job in that. But then I have a soon question for you, because these are some of the things we are now working with the first initial customers and pilot customers. So I think these are very exciting cases. So the number one feedback that we have been receiving since releasing Vainugent is that people want to prompt full lists. So right now, when you open up a company profile, the prompt, what it does, it sends an API call to these LLMs, and it does it for one company at a time. So when you open up a company profile, it's answering that prompt that you have. and completing that task, but only for one company at a time. Already now, for those of you who are really eager to get started, we have a capability to run prompts on big lists. So it could be, for example, that I have a list of 25,000 companies. You have maybe filtered down a full list of all Swedish companies a little bit, and you have 25,000 companies left, and then you have a specific thing or set of questions in mind that you want to ask for the whole list. Yes, can be done, even though not available yet on the platform. Also, very powerful to power up Vainu triggers. So I assume most of you know that Vainu triggers is a good way to track sort of important changes happening in companies. But there might be lots of important things, and there might be lots of things that are, some of them are nice to know, some of them are needed to know. Vainugent and LLMs in general are extremely good at summarizing things and highlighting the most important things. So definitely a use case we're very excited at Vainu. Predicting missing data points. As you know, we get lots of requests that could you add this type of data point? Could you add this type of data point? There's lots of them, and we have been lucky enough to track them and write them down. And many of these things can actually be done simply by using an AI agent. We have lots of other data points that can be used to at least predict those values that you want. And then you can start, for example, having information on that you want to estimate, for example, certain attributes that are not available, like R&D spending or emission levels or other things that are not currently available if you look at the data catalog, but you can just use Vainugent and write it down to the prompt, and then it will return the answer. Then huge opportunity is AI-driven financial statement analysis. So we've been working hard to extract, of course, all the key numbers from financial statements so that we know not only revenue and employee count, but also all those line items from income statement and balance sheet. But now we can also access text. And if you've been reading financial statements, there's quite a few notes, sort of a commentary text that especially bigger companies put into those documents. They talk about the option plans and shares that they have. They talk about the risks. They always talk about important events that have happened since the end of last fiscal year. They talk about future outlook. Lots of highly valuable insights, and some bigger companies, they have their sort of CEO's letter highlighting the strategic initiatives. And now all this is suddenly available, and you don't need to know the exact keyword because of the way we store the text that we use vector database. It definitely is capable of finding similar meanings, and you can just use the prompt and we're ready to return real insights that actually create a competitive edge. Same applies to other like very text heavy, high volume type of documents. I think public sector intelligence will be huge opportunity for these AI agents. Lots of text, lots of documents, nobody like doing it manually like this. I don't know, in any of the Nordic countries, the number of meeting minutes that cities and municipalities are putting out, it's tens of thousands at least. So no one is, of course, reading them. Other type of documents, companies announcing their budgets, writing like a new detailed reports where they talk about the next 5 years. All these documents are very text heavy and can be accessed through these AI agents. And then one thing that we have seen with bigger companies, so I don't know about you, but many companies have their own sort of AI initiative going on, and they want to build maybe their own AI agent, which is, I think, a great idea. And then they might feel that, hey, we also want our AI agent to access proprietary data. So it's not only based on publicly available website data, but like we need to feed our AI agent with proprietary data. And that's where Vainu API then becomes very powerful. So those users that are actually not using Vainugent, they just want to use Vainu API to get LLM ready data that agents otherwise cannot access. We see a couple of very interesting use cases and POC cases there. I actually want to get some input from you if possible, because we're now making these decisions, which one of these we're prioritizing. So I would appreciate if you give your input. Hopefully I was able to explain these different use cases in a clearly way, but what is the use case that you feel is most relevant for you? Like what type of, is it ability to prompt lists on Vainu, or is it about using modern AI with Vainu with triggers, or is it about getting access to new data points, new attributes that were not available earlier, AI-driven financial statement analysis so that you finally can use the text part of the financial statement. Public sector intelligence is, of course, relevant for those who sell to public sector, and then often it's data teams that are doing LLM ready data. I think you saw the answer. So prompting Vainu lists is the way to go, and no surprise, because then of course most people have their own use case in mind, and then they just want to do it for many lists at the same time. All right, I'm stopping the poll and going back to the presentation. A few more slides and then we'll open up for Q&A. So I think this is good to keep in mind, that AI agents and great AI is only as good as the data it's fed. And what I've seen the past 2 years is that Nordic companies are building these tools. Often they might lack access to high quality, especially localized data, since the data is fragmented, unstructured, and sometimes quite hard to use with LLMs. Maybe it's too much text to fit into the context, or it's not stored in a way that it makes it easy for models to avoid hallucination. And good to keep in mind that most of that type of data is actually unstructured text. But the good news is that nowadays it is available for these AI agents. So where to start? So I was just speaking with many of the colleagues and some customers, and also with the help of AI, tried to highlight some quite common B2B sales related AI agents, and also sort of evaluated if it's easy, difficult, challenging, or quite easy to implement and build. So the first one is, of course, that an agent that sorts and prioritizes inbound emails for sales reps. I think that's fairly common. Lots of ready-made agents do for that task. Lead research agent, another good one, just like we said, that you can analyze companies and leads. We saw similar example. Quite easy to implement, but it needs access to enrichment APIs. CRM data cleanup agent, very easy to start, but happen to know, because that's what we do at Vainu a lot, it gets, of course, way more complex when you start working with details, because there's so many custom rules and localization that need to be taken into account. So another option, but not maybe the easiest one to implement. Outbound message generator agent, moderate or easy to implement. One of the most common use cases, meeting summary agent, and also ideally it also does a task after that. The only thing you basically need is to access Zoom, Gong, or whatever call recording tool you use. Lead qualification agent, SDR, so sales development rep, automating that and replacing SDR with an AI agent. I think it's something people discuss a lot. It's actually, in my opinion, quite time consuming and difficult to do, but definitely an exciting space to keep an eye on. Then on the CS side, detecting churn risk, health score type of agent, again, requires a little bit work, because you need to make sure that you get the relevant data from product analytics, CS tools, and ticket history and CRM nodes. But these are just some of the examples that Start with something concrete. I wouldn't do all of them at the same time. Understand the basic concepts. And my feeling is that we have seen a development over the 35 years that very steadily the level of automation is increasing, but I think the speed is definitely going up. So the next 5 years, the speed of change is a lot faster than it was. And I think it's important to really be part of it and be brave to try things out. And these are some good concrete examples that you can start working already before the summer holidays. All right, let's go into Q&A in a moment. Want to also get your input on the webinar. So I would appreciate if you also provide some feedback if time was well spent. You made a decision to invest 45 minutes on this. You had some expectations regarding the webinar. So was it a good decision to join? Or was it a waste of time or okay? Or are you super happy? Hopefully you learned something. Keep the answers coming. Of course, if you want to try out Vainugent, just go to vainu.app and start prompting. If you want to spar an idea, let's connect on LinkedIn. And then we have 2 minutes to go. So need to go in and see if we have questions. So I can see that there's plenty of chat happening. All the materials will be sent. So what if we do the following, because I have quite a few questions and I don't want to run over time. We will put together all the questions and send those questions together with answers for you. And also I saw some people asking about the presentation, definitely can be shared. And also the recording will be available. And at least in Finnish, I'll run a similar one with in Finnish as well, because I think some of these things some people were asking for that, and I'll see if one of my colleagues or AI version of me could do it in Swedish and other Nordic languages. Thanks for the feedback. Thanks for joining and have a great day. And hopefully you also get excited when you start your journey with AI agents. Thanks everyone and have a good week.